Gil's got a problem. He actually has a couple of problems. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Gil is a character in a story. This story is serialized on a playlist on this channel. If you'd like to explore the entire series of stories, the playlist is entitled Stories About the Mysterious Ben Harper. Ben Harper is an alias. The fellow's original name is Jacob Gilbert Miller. He goes by Gil, so we're going to join Gil today in this episode of his ongoing story. Gil's got a couple of problems. As you may know, Gil has discovered that he has some abilities that most people wouldn't consider human abilities. He discovered that he has telekinesis. Well, at least on one occasion he had telekinesis, because he reached for something he had dropped, a bookmark, and it jumped into his hand. He also has had premonitions, so that he knew what was going to happen just before it happened. So his problem is he has these two abilities, and he attributes them to the amulet that he was given by the previous keeper. The amulet prevents aging. Gil was confounded by the fellow who gave him the amulet, Nicholas, because he asked Nicholas a lot of questions about the amulet. He wanted to know about its powers. But Nicholas didn't tell him about these abilities that came along with the amulet. We find Gil at home, in his study, sitting in a chair, thinking about these problems. He's analyzing them in his mind. He really can't discuss them with his wife because she would not understand. She doesn't know about the amulet. She doesn't know that he will not age. He hasn't figured out how to deal with that because the amulet does not prevent his wife from aging. Gil considered that he has two abilities that he didn't know about, and he wants to be able to control them, but so far he hasn't been able to. He assumes that they are both coming from the amulet, but for him, his ability to learn to control them appears to be two separate efforts. He figures since the telekinetics involves physical movement that he can see with his own eyes, that is where he would like to focus his efforts. He wants to learn how to control the telekinesis. So this evening, he decided to do an experiment or a series of experiments to try to get some control of this ability. He wants to repeat what happened the other day. He discovered his telekinetic ability when he put a bookmark onto a table and did so casually so it accidentally fell to the ground. When he reached for it, it was out of reach, but as he extended his hand to it, the bookmark quivered and then shot into his hand, into his grip. He retrieved it, but the bookmark came to him. On the day he discovered that, he was not able to repeat it. He was determined to repeat it today. So he sat in the same chair, he used the same bookmark, and he put it on the table, just as he had done. Except he focused his attention to make certain that he put it right at the edge of the table so that it would definitely fall to the floor. It did, and when he reached for it, absolutely nothing happened. He adjusted the position of his chair and the table, trying to make it exactly the way it was the other day. He repeated this process of carefully putting the bookmark on the edge of the table releasing it, allowing it to fall to the floor, and then reaching for it, trying to mentally command it to come to his hand. He repeated this experiment 10 times. On each occasion, he carefully placed the bookmark at the edge of the table, knowing that it would fall to the ground. It fell. He extended his hand. He concentrated his will upon the bookmark, and he willed it to come to him, extending his hand toward it, but not too close. Each time he did this, the result was the same: nothing. After the 10th try, he had given up. He was resigned that he was not going to be able to accomplish this goal today, or perhaps ever. So this time he just put the bookmark on the table with no intent that it fall on the floor. He did it without paying attention to what he was doing. And he put it right at the edge of the table. As he withdrew his hand, the bookmark fell to the floor by accident. Since he had failed on 10 occasions to retrieve this bookmark, he extended his hand toward the bookmark so that he could know how much he needed to lean down to pick it up. He knew he would have to stretch quite a bit to get to it. As he extended his hand toward the bookmark with no intention that it would come into his hand, it quivered and shot into his hand. He was both elated and irritated. He was thrilled that he had repeated the experiment. What this experience told him is that this phenomenon is real. It didn't happen once. It wasn't a little breeze that blew a bookmark into his hand by accident. No, this was a repeat performance, and it was exactly the way it had occurred days ago. So he knew he had a real phenomenon, but he knew that so far he cannot control it. It does not bend to his will. He also thought that it was interesting that he did not have a premonition that it was going to happen. He didn't foresee that it would occur. He couldn't understand the apparent relationship between these two abilities that he has been granted. Apparently, they're mutually exclusive. At this point, he rose from his chair and walked to the desk. From the drawer, he retrieved several pieces of paper and a pen. He applied the date to the top of the first page, and he started writing in longhand. His first paragraph outlined his previous experiences with the telekinesis and the premonitions. He described how they had occurred and roughly when they occurred. He then detailed the experiments of today, the 10 failed attempts at getting the bookmark to move, followed by the almost accidental movement of the bookmark directly into his hand. He wrote everything he could remember about his observations, his impressions, and what he was trying to do. When he was done, he had filled 3 pages of notes regarding the experiment that was just done. About the time he finished writing the 3rd page, he had a feeling of tremendous fatigue. It puzzled him because he'd not felt like this. It was a wave of severe fatigue. He was very tired. And he got to thinking, where did that come from? He couldn't remember if he had the same fatigue the last time he was able to do telekinetic movement. He got another piece of paper out of the desk drawer, and he started writing on that, describing this sensation of fatigue and speculating in writing where it might be coming from. Perhaps the physical energy of moving that bookmark drained energy from him. Maybe there's a cost to him to move objects. And that worried him, because if it made him this tired to move a very small piece of cardstock, a small bookmark, then what would the cost to him be if he tried to move something that was heavy, like a brick or a wagon or a horse? He wondered if perhaps such an exertion could prove fatal to him. That really bothered him, because he has this amulet. It is supposed to prevent aging, and he thought how ironic it would be if it prevented aging but caused his death. He was worried about this, but he just didn't know enough about it to do anything about it. He now has 4 pages of notes, and a thought flashed into his head. What if someone read these notes? What if someone read these and understood what he was writing about? Now, the context here is that Gill is living in Salem, Massachusetts in the mid-1800s. The history of Salem, Massachusetts includes the execution, mostly by hanging, of about 200 people for witchcraft about 150 years earlier. They had not executed a witch in Salem in well over 100 years, so he didn't perceive an imminent threat. But he was taught about the Salem witch trials in school, and it's very familiar to him. So because this is part of his upbringing, he was very cautious about creating a document that could be a problem for him if it was scrutinized by someone else. If somebody read it and understood what it said, that could prove very bad for him. So he's now perceiving another risk to himself created by the amulet. He realized that he needs a way of hiding these pages. He wants to create the record. He wants to be able to study these phenomena, but he also doesn't want these notes to come under the scrutiny of someone else. So for now, he locked them in his desk drawer. He's the only one that has a key. But he construed that his desk drawer is not a very safe storage place. So he decided to think about a more secure place that he could keep these very sensitive papers that he was creating. Gill's got a lot of things to think about. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.